faithfully conveying value, interpreting great books from around the world.
Hello, this is Sally's Book Club. Today I'll be interpreting the book A Mirror of the Late Qing Officialdom for you. The subtitle is A Study of Du Fengji's Diary. Now, who exactly was this Du Fengji? He was a minor official. Born in 1814 in present-day Shaoxing, Zhejiang, Du passed the imperial exam at 31. At 53, he went to Guangdong, serving as county magistrate in Guanning, Siwi, Nanhai, and other regions. He resigned and returned home in 1880, ending his official career. All told, Du served just 13 years as what we'd call a seventh-rank sesame official. In the Qing official ranking system, he occupied the lower middle tier, unremarkable in credentials, achievements, or status. Officials like him were a dime a dozen, nothing special at all. What's extraordinary is Du Fengji's passion for diary keeping. Despite his busy official duties, he wrote in his diary nearly every day. The surviving diaries span 40 volumes with millions of characters. The originals preserved at Sun Yat-sen University in Guangzhou. In 2007, Guangdong People's Publishing House released photocopied editions. These diaries record both Du's experiences and the activities of Guangdong officials at all levels, covering land tax collection, bandit suppression, court trials, officialdom secrets, and foreign relations. Their breadth and detail make them an encyclopedia of late Qing bureaucracy. While insignificant compared to contemporaries like Zhen Guofan or Zhuo Zhengtong, his diaries hold immense historical value. They're crucial primary sources for understanding late Qing officialdom. Thus, modern Chinese historian Professor Qi of Sun Yat-sen University spent 20 years studying these diaries to write A Mirror of the Late Qing Officialdom. The book traces Du's career to reveal how late Qing bureaucracy operated, analyzing its institutional and societal underpinnings. I'll now explore three aspects: county magistrates' duties, their routine expenses, and income sources. Finally, I'll summarize two defining features of late Qing bureaucratic operations. Okay, let's begin with part one, the work of county magistrates. First, what exactly was a county magistrate? The Qing Dynasty organized local administration into three tiers: province, first level; prefecture or zhou, second; and county, third. These latter two levels are collectively called zhu and xian, and their officials are generally known as county magistrates, equivalent to today's county chief or county-level city mayor. The protagonist of this book, Du Fengji, served as county magistrate in Guanning, Guangdong, in the 5th year of the Tengji reign, 1866, and later governed Sihui County, Nanhai County, Luodingzhou, etc., making him a standard county magistrate. So, what were the duties of a county magistrate? They can be divided into four major categories. First, collecting land taxes. Second, apprehending bandits and resolving civil disputes. Third, administering imperial examinations. And fourth, conducting foreign negotiations. First, let's discuss the most important duty of county magistrates: collecting land taxes. China was founded on agriculture, and regardless of the dynasty, land taxes were the main source of fiscal revenue. The Qing Dynasty was no exception. Of course, imperial relatives and high-ranking officials couldn't personally collect them, so the task fell to the county magistrates. This job was no easy task. First, as human nature goes, farmers weren't willing to hand over the grain they worked hard to grow to the authorities. During his over 10 years as magistrate, Du Fengji rarely saw anyone voluntarily submit grain. Everyone tried to evade it whenever possible. And often, county magistrates had to bring clerks, even soldiers, to the countryside to push the collection work. The complexity of the environment further increased the difficulty. According to regulations, land taxes should be paid by the landowner, that is, the landlord. The problem was that before Du Fengji came to Guangdong, locals had responded to the Taiping Rebellion, leading to suppression by the Qing court. During the chaos of war, official archives, including land registries, were destroyed, making it impossible to determine owners for many lands. With landlords nowhere to be found, who could they collect taxes from? And so President Charlie answered. Moreover, in Guangdong custom, private land sales didn't need to be reported to the authorities. So even if you found the original landlord with the land registry, he could confidently say, "I've already sold the land. Why should I pay the grain?" Ooh. What gave county magistrates even more headaches was that wealthy households, local gentry, etc., often had powerful clan backing. United, they dragged their feet on taxes, and when pressured by authorities, they didn't hesitate to openly resist. For example, in Nanhai County, there was a village of the Li surname that refused to pay taxes for decades. This village even organized clan militias, building walls and forts to deal with clerks sent to collect taxes. These county magistrates were caught in a dilemma. If they couldn't collect taxes, superiors would blame them, and they'd lose their positions. But if they pushed the local gentry too hard, it could spark mass incidents, alarming the court. Why? And they'd face consequences too. Du Fengji learned this lesson the hard way early in his official career. At the time, as magistrate of Guanyin, present-day Guanyin County, Zhaoqing, he was uncompromising and harsh in tax collection, offending the gentry. As a result, Guanyin gentry went to the provincial capital to accuse Du of oppressing good people, forcing his transfer. Afterward, Du wised up. When collecting taxes, he first negotiated with the gentry. The government would collect less. The gentry would pay more. Meeting halfway. Of course, county magistrates had authority and generally dared to use force against unyielding gentry. For example, in Chaozhou in eastern Guangdong, known for its fierce folk customs, some wealthy families even used force to refuse tax payment. In the 8th year of the Tongji reign, Du was appointed as a special commissioner to collect taxes there. Upon arriving in Chaozhou with clerks and soldiers, he threatened the local gentry. "If you don't hand over the grain within 3 days, I'll burn your houses down." He also ordered his men to beat, arrest people, and seize plow oxen, farm tools, and stored grain. In some destitute families, if the male had fled, Du simply detained his wife and children, putting them in kongs to force him to appear. Du stayed in Chaozhou for 7 months, collecting land taxes equivalent to about 80,000 taels of silver, half the accumulated arrears. Naturally, Chaozhou gentry loathed him bitterly but could do nothing. Because this time, Du had backing from higher authorities, making any gentry accusations futile. Now let's look at another duty of county magistrates: capturing bandits and resolving civil disputes to maintain social order and local peace. This was inherently their responsibility, especially in Guangdong. In the late Qing, Guangdong was notorious as a bandit haven, meaning robbers and bandits were especially rampant, with endless robberies and murders. During Du's tenure as Nanhai magistrate, one midnight, 20 or 30 bandits brazenly broke into the patrol office, stealing all valuables and clothes. This patrol office responsible for catching bandits was openly robbed. This shows how audacious Guangdong bandits were. Too embarrassed to report truthfully, Du fabricated a story about thieves stealing the items to appease his superiors. Of course, this wasn't standard procedure, as the Qing court had strict rules for robbery cases. After a crime occurred, county magistrates were required to immediately investigate. If unsolved within the set time, they could apply for extensions up to 3 times. If still unresolved, you'd lose your position. However, such demands were unrealistic. When Du Fengji served as county magistrate in Manhai County, which is today's Manhai District in Foshan, he got 20 to 30 case reports every month. Way too many for him to handle with his limited energy and manpower.
The strategy for county magistrates was to avoid filing or reporting cases that didn't cause much social impact, just to dodge trouble.
For cases that did get filed, they were handled quickly. But how exactly was that speed achieved? Torture to extract confessions. Qing Dynasty justice placed huge importance on confessions. If a suspect admitted guilt, the case could be closed even without evidence.
So, county magistrates often tortured suspects and even arrested their families to force them to sign confessions fast.
You might wonder, what if a suspect retracted their confession during higher court review? Easy. The higher court's approach was, "Oh, you're retracting, huh?" Send it back to the county for retrial, meaning another round of torture confessions. How many could endure that? County magistrates had another trick called borrowing bandits to close cases, pinning multiple robberies on one or two bandits to clear a bunch of cases at once. Why would the bandits go along with it? Because the magistrates would threaten and bribe them, saying stuff like, "You're doomed anyway, confess to a few more murders, and I'll skip the torture and treat you well with food and drink." And, still, Du Fengji did this plenty. His bosses even coached him. Don't make the case files too perfect. Leave some flaws so they don't look staged. With that, wrongful convictions were inevitable. But for magistrates, common folks had little power. Wronged or not, they couldn't complain effectively or rattle the court. And the imperial court? As long as land taxes rolled in and people didn't rebel, who cared about a few wrongful cases? The court didn't give a hoot, so county magistrates stuck to the same approach when handling civil disputes. To clarify, Qing justice didn't split cases into criminal or civil, so, except for robberies, which disrupted order and needed special handling, stuff like property fights, sales, human trafficking, rape, or neighbor squabbles were all treated as civil disputes. Now, for these cases, county magistrates' attitude was, if there's no profit in it, downplay big issues and settle small ones. For instance, women who reported rape at the yamen were often widows or orphans, no money to squeeze from them, so Du Fengji usually didn't believe them. But what if someone stubbornly pushed for a trial? Bad, and the Fengji would arrest the petition writers and force them to talk the plaintiffs into dropping the suit, or else punish the writers. County magistrates were unwilling to spend time and energy on civil disputes because they had more important things to do, administering the imperial examinations. In the Qing Dynasty, imperial exams were divided into 3 levels: county exams, provincial exams, and palace exams. The county exam was the first level, a basic annual selection. Passing it qualified you for further exams. The county exam was usually administered by county magistrates. In the 9th year of the Tongji reign, Du Fengji presided over the county exam in Guangning County. That year, there were 840 candidates, and he handled everything from setting questions to grading papers and announcing results. Du Fengji personally oversaw it all, toiling away for over half a month. Just as the literary exam ended, the military exam followed right after. Du Fengji personally went to the training ground to evaluate the candidates' martial skills. So that took another 10 days or so altogether Du spent over a month, and Guangning was just an ordinary county town. When he served as magistrate in Nanhai County, examinees numbered 7,000 or 8,000, making it even more exhausting. So during the exam period, county magistrates would cut back on handling other matters. If anyone came to file a lawsuit then, the county magistrate naturally wouldn't give them a warm welcome. Whoa. Except for one type of person, foreign diplomats handling external affairs. Then county magistrates couldn't afford to be careless. In truth, bureaucrats like Du Fengji, who didn't know English or Western learning, were inwardly resistant to foreigners. But serving in Guangdong, this was unavoidable. Guangzhou, the provincial capital, was one of the earliest treaty ports opened by the Qing court. The city housed consulates from various countries, with many foreigners. When Du Fengji served in Manhai, he dealt with them often because Xiguan, Guangzhou's most bustling area, filled with Chinese and foreign shops, was under Nanhai County's jurisdiction. Foreign consuls would seek meetings with the governor-general of Liangguan or the Guangdong governor for various matters, but the governor's office, fearing trouble, pushed it all onto Du Fengji. But this Manhai magistrate, Du Fengji, had no diplomatic training. How was he to handle it? When consuls didn't get satisfactory answers, they'd threaten to go to the capital and appeal to the emperor, giving Du Fengji major headaches. Usually the governor's office would instruct county magistrates to just do as the foreigners said. Du Fengji's diary records that in the third year of the Guangxu reign, a murder occurred in Chixi Town, Guangdong. A group of bandits robbed a civilian boat and killed someone. Liu Kumyi, then Governor General of Lianglang, ordered strict punishment. Unbeknownst to him, these bandits were converts protected by a French missionary, so the French consul intervened to settle the matter peacefully. Liu Kumyi had local officials release them to end the affair. Du Fengji mocked this, saying Liu was terrified of foreigners. But how much better was he himself? Once, a British vice-consul said, "Your Nanhai County once levied an unreasonable tax on us, and it should be refunded." Du Fengji stated that it was done by the previous magistrate and told him to take it up with that official. But the vice-consul persisted relentlessly. Du didn't record whether he returned the money, though logically he probably did. Otherwise, he'd have boasted about refusing in his diary. Inspired. King officials couldn't handle foreigners, but they had plenty of ways to deal with Chinese who acted like foreigners. Fake devils. In February of the 13th Tongji year, when the U.S. consul in Guangzhou left his post, his Chinese interpreter was dismissed. Governor General Rui Lin, learning this, personally ordered Du Fengji to arrest him. That person, 2 months later, this interpreter died of illness in custody. With that, we've covered the main duties of county magistrates, showing their work span taxation, justice, exams, diplomacy, and more. Additionally, during floods or famines, magistrates organized relief. During festivals, they presided over ceremonies, and when high officials visited, they handled receptions. In short, county magistrates were swamped with official duties, never idle. There was one time Du Fengji took a few sick days. Right after returning, his superior told him, "A magistrate can't afford to get sick."
Look how work is piled up after just a few days of your absence.
So here's the question. With such broad responsibilities and heavy workload,
How could county magistrates possibly handle it all?
the answer lies in the magistrates' account books. In Part 2, Daily Expenses of County Magistrates, I'll discuss this issue. Du Fengji meticulously recorded daily expenses in his diary, with one category standing out: hiring private secretaries. Sigh, being a county magistrate meant paying out of pocket for help. What else could they do when the state-provided staff was useless? Under Qing systems, the county magistrate managed all county affairs. After a crime occurred, county magistrates were required to immediately investigate. If unsolved within the set time, they could apply for extensions, up to 3 times. If still unresolved, you'd lose your position. However, such demands were unrealistic. When Du Fengji served as magistrate in Nanhai County, today's Nanhai District, Foshan, he got 20 to 30 case reports monthly, impossible to handle with his limited energy and staff. The strategy was to avoid filing or reporting cases without social impact to dodge trouble. For filed cases, handle them quickly. But how exactly? Torture confessions. Qing justice heavily relied on confessions. Any admission of guilt closed the case, evidence or not.
So magistrates often tortured suspects or arrested family members to force quick confessions.
You might be asking, what if during the higher court's review, the suspect retracts their confession? Easy. The higher court's approach is, "Oh, you're retracting, huh?" Send it back to the county for retrial, meaning another round of torture confessions. How many could endure that? County magistrates had another trick called borrowing bandits to close cases, pinning multiple robberies on 1 or 2 bandits to clear a bunch of cases at once. Why would the bandits go along with it? Because the magistrates would threaten and bribe them, saying stuff like, "You're doomed anyway," Confess to a few more murders and I'll skip the torture and treat you well with food and drink. And Du Fengji did this plenty. His bosses even coached him. Don't make the case files too perfect. Leave some flaws so they don't look staged. With that, wrongful convictions were inevitable. But for magistrates, common folks had little power. Wronged or not, they couldn't complain effectively or rattle the court. And the imperial court? As long as land taxes rolled in and people didn't rebel, who cared about a few wrongful cases? The court didn't give a hoot, so county magistrates stuck to the same approach when handling civil disputes. Quote, to clarify, Qing justice didn't split cases into criminal or civil, so except for robberies, which disrupted order and needed special handling, stuff like property fights, human trafficking, rape, or neighbor squabbles were all treated as civil disputes. For these cases, county magistrates' attitude was, if there's no profit in it, downplay big issues and settle small ones. For instance, women who reported rape at the yamen were often widows or orphans, no money to squeeze from them, so Du Fengji usually didn't believe them. But what if someone stubbornly pushed for a trial? Du Fengji would arrest the petition writers and force them to talk the plaintiffs into dropping the suit, or else punish the writers. County magistrates were unwilling to spend time and energy on civil disputes because they had more important things to do, administering the imperial examinations. In the Qing Dynasty, imperial exams were divided into 3 levels: county exams, provincial exams, and palace exams. The county exam was the first level, a basic annual selection. Passing it qualified you for further exams. The county exam was usually administered by county magistrates. In the 9th year of the Tongji reign, Du Fengji presided over the county exam in Guangming County. That year, there were 840 candidates, and he handled everything from setting questions to grading papers and announcing results. Yu Fengji personally oversaw it all, toiling away for over half a month. The literary exams had just ended when the military exams followed right after. Du Fengji personally went to the training ground to evaluate the candidates' martial skills. That took another 10 days or so altogether, Du spent over a month, and Guangning was just an ordinary county town. When he served as magistrate in Nanhai County, examinees numbered 7,000 or 8,000. Making it even more exhausting. So, during the exam period, county magistrates would cut back on handling other matters. If anyone came to file a lawsuit, then the county magistrate naturally wouldn't give them a warm welcome. Except for one type of person, foreign diplomats handling external affairs. Then county magistrates couldn't afford to be careless. In truth, bureaucrats like Du Fengji, who didn't know English or Western learning, were inwardly resistant to foreigners. But serving in Guangdong, this was unavoidable. Guangzhou, the provincial capital, was one of the earliest treaty ports opened by the Qing court. The city housed consulates from various countries, with many foreigners. When Du Fengji served in Nanhai, he dealt with them often because Siguan, Guangzhou's most bustling area, filled with Chinese and foreign shops, was under Nanhai County's jurisdiction. Foreign consuls would seek meetings with the Governor General of Liangguan or the Guangdong governor for various matters, but the governor's office, fearing trouble, pushed it all onto Du Fengji. But this Nanhai magistrate, Du Fengji, had no diplomatic training. How was he to handle it? When consuls didn't get satisfactory answers, they'd threaten to go to the capital and appeal to the emperor, giving Du Fengji major headaches. Usually the governor's office would instruct county magistrates to just do as the foreigner said. Du Fengji's diary records that in the 3rd year of the Guangxu reign, a murder occurred in Qixi town, Guangdong. A group of bandits robbed a civilian boat and killed someone. Liu Kunyi, then Governor General of Liangguan, ordered strict punishment. Unbeknownst to him, these bandits were converts, protected by a French missionary. So the French consul intervened to settle the matter peacefully. Liu Cunye had local officials release them to end the affair. Du Fengji mocked this, saying Liu was terrified of foreigners. But how much better was he himself? Once, a British vice consul said, "Your Nanhai County once levied an unreasonable tax on us, and it should be refunded."
Du Fengji stated that it was done by the previous magistrate and told him to take it up with that official.
But the vice consul persisted relentlessly. Du didn't record whether he returned the money, though logically he probably did. Otherwise, he'd have boasted about refusing in his diary. Qing officials couldn't handle foreigners, but they had plenty of ways to deal with Chinese who acted like foreigners, fake devils. In February of the 13th Tongzi year, when the U.S. consul in Guangzhou left his post, his Chinese interpreter was dismissed. Governor General Rui Lin, learning this, personally ordered Du Fengji to arrest him. That person, 2 months later, this interpreter died of illness in custody, and that was that. That concludes the introduction of the main duties of county magistrates. It's clear their work involves taxation, judicial exams, diplomacy, and more. Additionally, in case of floods or famines, magistrates must organize relief. During festivals, preside over ceremonies, and when high officials visit, handle receptions. In short, county magistrates are swamped with duties, never idle for a moment. Du Fengji took a few sick days. Right after returning, his superior told him, "A magistrate can't afford to get sick.
Look how work has piled up after just a few days of your absence."
So here's the question. With such broad responsibilities and heavy workload, how could county magistrates possibly handle it all? The answer lies in the magistrates' account books. In Part 2, the daily expenses of county magistrates, I'll discuss this issue. Du Fengji meticulously recorded daily expenses in his diary, with one category standing out: hiring private secretaries. Sigh. Being a county magistrate meant paying out of pocket for help. What else could they do when the state-provided staff was useless? Under Qing systems, the county magistrate managed all county affairs. Just send gifts on time. Qing officials' gifts were divided into 2 types: dry gifts, meaning silver, and wet gifts, meaning items. Charcoal respect and ice respect were mostly dry gifts. Birthday and festival gifts could be both. In the 11th year of Tongji reign, for Rui Lin's birthday, Du Fengji gave gold, silver, jewels, silk, etc., totaling over 3,000 taels of silver. That was sufficient. It's naive to think that the governor's relatives, secretaries, even servants must also be taken care of. In the 12th year of Tongji reign, Rui Lin had a granddaughter. Du Fengji and other officials also presented generous gifts. Once, Rui Lin hosted a banquet inviting subordinates to dine. During the banquet, Du Fengji tipped the servants serving him. Every time he visited Rui Lin's residence, giving dozens of taels to the gatekeeper was unavoidable. Otherwise, you couldn't even see the governor. Gift giving is an art. How much to give has its nuances. The value of gifts from county magistrates to governors and provincial governors must never exceed that to circuit intendants. Or where would that leave your direct superior? But sometimes you have to give more. In the 13th year of Tongzi reign, Rui Lin passed away. By rule, Du Fengji only needed to give 400 taels, but considering he got the lucrative position of Nanhai magistrate through Rui Lin's recommendation, he gave 500 to show gratitude.
Yeah.
Below the governor's office, there were also provincial administration commissioners, provincial judges, and other high-ranking local officials, all of whom county magistrates had to send gifts to on schedule. You could say this took up the lion's share of a county magistrate's daily expenses. Take the 11th year of the Tongji reign as an example. Du Fengji gave gifts worth a total of 11,114 taels of silver to the Governor-General of Liangguan, 3,445 taels to the Guangdong governor, 1,355 taels to the provincial judge, 1,350. and 823 taels to the Provincial Administration Commissioner.
Adding others, that year alone, Du spent 20,000 taels just on gifts for superiors. Plus, county magistrates also had to gift education officials.
These mainly fell into two categories: provincial education commissioners and chief examiners. In the Qing Dynasty, each province had one provincial education commissioner overseeing education. Appointed directly by the court, they were often low-ranking Hanlin Academy compilers, yet their status was high, allowing them to sit equally with governors. Ironically, these Hanlin scholars, who prided themselves on refinement and nobility, were, in Du's diary, most often called money-grubbing, no different from vulgar merchants. For example, one named Wu Shubao openly took bribes during exams. As long as paid enough, he turned a blind eye to imposters taking exams for candidates. Another, Hu Rulin, was given 3,000 taels for travel expenses before leaving. He complained it was too little and demanded 5,000. Only after the governor intervened did he accept. Their greed was understandable, though. As Hanlin scholars, they were dirt poor. Finally sent out as education commissioners, of course they'd grab what they could.
Du revealed that serving one term as education commissioner could easily save 70,000, 80,000 taels. At least they had 3-year terms to slowly amass wealth.
Chief examiners, though, were sent by the court to supervise provincial exams and returned immediately after. Their time was limited, so they were even more shameless. In the 12th Tongji year, a Hanlin named Zhou Guan came to Guangdong as chief examiner. When county magistrates hosted a banquet, he refused, demanding cash instead. Customarily, examiners got 9 taels daily for meals. Zhou greedily raised it to 17. After results were posted, he even lingered, hoping to squeeze more silver from magistrates. Even the worldly Du Fengji was appalled by this behavior. In his diary, he called Zhao money-hungry and shameless. Sending off these poor Hanlin scholars added yet another huge expense to magistrates' budgets. Additionally, magistrates hosted visiting officials, led donations during famines, and even paid for yamen repairs out of pocket. Truly a bottomless pit.
To sum it up, from hiring staff to bribing officials at all levels, to all sorts of miscellaneous expenses, a county magistrate has to spend at least 30,000 taels of silver every year.
Besides, in feudal times, county magistrates also had to shoulder the heavy responsibility of supporting their entire family. What about hometown matters? For example, building ancestral halls, paving roads, or putting up bridges. They had to chip in money, so the magistrates' expenses just piled up more. So here's the question: is the county magistrate's official income enough? I'll put the conclusion out there first. Definitely not enough. County magistrates had to find other ways. I'll go into the specifics in part 3. County magistrates' income. The county magistrate's income is split into formal and informal types. Formal income is just the salary. Under the Qing system, county magistrates' salaries varied a lot depending on the county. In Guanning County, a pretty ordinary magistrate, the annual salary was 45 taels of silver plus 600 taels of Yangnian yin. Manhai County was a big county. The salary was also 45 taels, but the Yanglian yin jumped to 1,500 taels, plus 30 taels for office expenses. All in all, Du Fengji's formal income was 1,575 taels of silver, barely enough to hire 2 private secretaries. But Yanglian yin wasn't a fixed wage. It was more like a fluctuating allowance. The court often docked it, claiming lack of funds, so what ended up in the magistrate's hands was next to nothing. Clearly, relying solely on formal income, county magistrates would be in deep trouble. They couldn't even feed their family, let alone run around bribing everyone. So county magistrates mainly counted on informal income. Where'd they get it from? Likely from gifts from subordinates and gentry. County magistrates had to give gifts to superiors, but also received from subordinates. Holidays, birthdays, weddings, funerals, all prime gift-giving times. Subordinates would fork over part of their shady income to the magistrate to share the spoils and avoid getting shafted. Local gentry also gave gifts often. When a magistrate took office, they'd pool money for an arrival gift. Same for leaving, gifts from hundreds to thousands of taels. Opening shops meant gifts, and regular occasions too. For example, in Guangning, 24 paper mills gave Dufunji gifts totaling about 1,200 taels yearly. Even for night work, gentry had to give gifts, sugar-coated as candlelight fees. All that was just small change. The magistrate's biggest income actually came from their job. We've covered county magistrates' duties, including collecting land taxes, running exams, handling civil disputes, and so on. Every single one of these had greasy profits to skim off. Take land tax collection, for example. Originally, land taxes referred to grains, like rice and wheat. By the Qing Dynasty, in the mid to late period, county magistrates often demanded farmers pay not in grain, but in silver converted from grain. The problem was farmers had no say in the conversion rate. It was entirely up to the magistrate. In early Tongzi years, rice around Guangzhou was worth 1 tael per 100 jin, but magistrates forced farmers to pay 5 taels. Plain robbery.
Naturally, this extra silver ended up in magistrates' pockets. How much could it be?
According to Dufengji's diary, Zhang Xuan, Dongguan magistrate, admitted skimming 50,000 taels from land taxes during his term, a heavy burden on farmers that boiled public resentment. In Tengji's 5th year, new Guangdong governor Zhang Yili ordered magistrates to collect taxes at market prices without markups. This move turned all Guangdong officials against him. Governor General Rui Lin pretended support but then impeached Zhang to the court, exploiting his youthful impulsiveness. If we let him mess around like this, Guangdong's administration will collapse. Result? The court demoted Zhang by 2 ranks and transferred him out of Guangdong. His governorship lasted barely over a year. Next, magistrates' other major income, profiting from imperial exams. It's widely believed Ming-Qing imperial exams had strict oversight. Cheating, imposters, or bribery meant severe punishment if caught. During Xi Feng's reign, an exam scandal erupted. The furious emperor even executed the top-ranking official overseeing it. But effective oversight only existed at provincial and palace exams. County-level exams were totally different. As mentioned, Qin County exams were magistrate-run. From setting questions, to grading, to admissions, the county boss decided everything. The court rarely intervened, leaving huge room for manipulation. Magistrates routinely leaked questions to bribing candidates beforehand and gave special treatment during exams. Common practice. Candidates openly hired imposters to take exams for them. Magistrates turned a blind eye, and lax management only worsened the cheating. In Nanhai County, examinees hit 7,000 to 8,000 yearly. With no venue that large, most took exams at their lodgings, so how could there be supervision? County exam grading differs from provincial exams. Examiners can check candidate names anytime, which basically opens the door wide for bribery. It's said that in Nanhai County, the price tag for first place in the literary exam was 3,000 taels of silver, and for the military exam, 600 taels, with amounts decreasing down the ranks. Additionally, county magistrates would hand out personal favors, like when Dufengji was magistrate in Luanding, 2 doctors often treated him and his family. Yufengji gave their sons special treatment during exam grading. Bottom line, if you pay enough cash or have connections, even someone who can't finish an 8-legged essay can become a shuqi. But if the money's not there, you might just be an old child student at 80. Kong Jiji from Lu Sun's stories, who spent half his life taking exams without becoming a shuchai, is a real-life example of this. Another county magistrate duty, handling civil disputes, is equally lucrative. As mentioned, magistrates' principle is to settle disputes peacefully, But if wealthy families are involved, things change. For instance, when Du Fengji was magistrate in Luoding, the Chen and Li families battled in court over ancestral hall land. The Li family bribed all around, spending over 10,000 wen copper coins to win. That could have bought over 1,000 jin of grain back then, but the court only ordered the Chen family to pay 2,000 wen. Hardly worth it. They just saved face. No wonder Du Fengji said, "Don't touch lawsuits. One touch and your family's ruined." Even if the magistrate feels pity, his subordinates, clerks, jailers, runners, won't hold back, because lawsuits are their chance to profit. Here's why. Magistrates are outsiders, unfamiliar locals, like Zhejiang native. Du Fengji couldn't understand Cantonese, so he relied on subordinates to translate in court, letting them squeeze parties dry for profit. Magistrates know this, but turn a blind eye since it's a key income source for subordinates.
Smash their rice bowl, and they'll fight you tooth and nail.
Besides, magistrates don't need to fight subordinates for this cash. They've got plenty of other ways to skim profits. For example, in the Qing Dynasty, salt and iron were state monopolies. Selling salt required an official license, and smuggling was a major crime. But magistrates' boats were exempt from inspection by custom, so they often carried smuggled salt when traveling.
All this means county magistrates have diverse income streams and never worry about lacking chances to profit.
Many people turned their fortunes around by serving as county magistrates for a few years, and this book's protagonist Du Fengji is a classic example. He originally came from modest means and spent heavily to secure his official position, plunging deep into debt. By the time he became magistrate of Guangning in Guangdong, he owed 1,000 taels of silver. Yet within just 2 months of taking office, he cleared his debts and started investing. According to partial records, Du Fengji sent over 20,000 taels back to his hometown to buy farmland, invest in shops, and lend to relatives. Additionally, Du's wife and daughter-in-law each had thousands of taels in personal savings, not counting jewelry, jade pieces, books, etc. The book's author estimates Du amassed at least 45,000 taels during his official career. What does that mean? In Tongzi era purchasing power, it could buy 3 million jin of grain. Converted at 2020 gold prices, he pocketed about $5 million. And Du was just a county magistrate. His superiors, like circuit intendants and prefects, likely earned even more. Thus, the folk saying a clean prefect for 3 years gets 100,000 snowflake silver isn't exaggerated. You might ask, with late Qing officials so corrupt and lawless, why didn't the court intervene? Well, once you grasp the 2 defining traits of late Qing bureaucracy, that question vanishes. First trait, gift-giving was bone deep in late Qing officialdom. People saw nothing wrong. Gentry bribing officials and subordinates gifting superiors were normalized as unspoken rules, not corruption. When Du Fengji recorded these in his diary, he felt no guilt, instead taking pride in his wealth amassing skills. Ironically, Du considered himself restrained and gentle with commoners, unlike colleagues with greedier approaches. Conversely, an upright official in late Qing bureaucracy was like a freak anomaly. Du's diary notes that Lu Kunyi, Shan Army General and self-strengthening movement leader, as Liangguang Governor General, never demanded gifts and donated most offerings to the state treasury. And, by contemporary standards, Lu was certainly clean, yet Du disliked him, constantly mocking his stubbornness and difficult personality. The reason? Simply that Lu was strict, making it hard to pull strings through him. County magistrates found him obstructive. They preferred superiors like Rui Lin, who took silver and gave face without asking questions. The second big feature of the late Qing bureaucracy is that as long as it doesn't stir up popular revolts, officials can do whatever they want. This ties back to the Qing court's own self-interest. For the Qing court, what matters most is county magistrates collecting all the land taxes and levies they're supposed to. As for what methods are used, or how much trickery is involved, the Qing court doesn't care, just as long as magistrates don't go overboard and spark revolts. The Qing court turns a blind eye to it all, which also helps cut down on their ruling costs. How to make sense of this? Like we covered earlier, the Qing court paid officials peanuts. Most couldn't even fill their bellies on that salary, let alone hire private secretaries. Even crazier, the court only appointed officials. All the travel costs to their posts were on them. Many had to borrow cash just to get there, so they'd arrive already drowning in debt. Why? Even if they wanted to be clean officials, they had to skim money first to pay it off. That's exactly what the Qing court wanted, because it meant officials' living costs and office funds all came from the people, so the court didn't have to shell out a cent. Talk about lightening the financial load, huh? And so, the corruption in late Qing bureaucracy was systemic. Everyone from top to bottom profited, and no one wanted to change it. One incident really drives this home. In the 9th year of the Guangxu reign, Ben Changshu, a supervising censor who monitored officials, impeached the Guangdong bureaucracy for its rotten culture, saying embezzlers were as common as oxen carrying sweat, and demanded a full investigation.
The Qing court then sent Peng Yulin, the governor-general of Liangjiang, to look into it.
After a long investigation, he concluded there was no solid evidence. Peng Yulin was a Shang army general known for his integrity and fairness. If even he couldn't dig up anything, what chance did others have? Truth is, the Qing court was just going through the motions. They never meant to investigate for real. If not for Du Fengji's millions of words and diaries, we wouldn't have such a deep and detailed look at the late Qing bureaucracy's workings. That's the real value of these records. And now our love of Qing. All right, that wraps up our interpretation of a mirror of the late Qing officialdom, a study of Du Fengji's diaries. Listener notes are below the audio. See you next time.